Hey ambitious professionals, it's Linda Rayner of lindarainer.com, guiding you to a career and life you'll truly enjoy. Now, if you're someone who has been wanting or trying to transition into a different job or industry altogether, and you're still finding yourself stuck and unsure of how to go about doing that, then today's video is for you. I'm going to share with you my 5-step process on how you can get started from going from the job or industry that you're in right now and transitioning out of that job or industry into the one that you really want to get into. So let's get started. Now, as a career strategist, I've had the ability to help numerous ambitious corporate professionals just like you to land their dream job offers. And so if this is something that you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I can give you details about that at the end of this video. Now, because I've worked with so many different types of professionals and clients, I've been able to help many of them to transition not just from one job to the other, but from one type of job to a completely different type of job, or from one industry to a completely different type of industry. And I'm going to talk more about a couple of examples today. So maybe this is you. Maybe you want to make a complete career switch. You realize that what you studied, what you've been working in, the industry, the job, the type of role that you're in is not where you want to be in the long term, and you want to make that leap now rather than later. But you're having trouble. You're having trouble with how to sell yourself properly. You're having trouble with matching yourself to whatever it is that these employers are looking for from this type of position and from that particular industry. And you're not sure what you can do to help yourself become more of an attractive candidate for them. So today I'm going to share with you my 5-step process that hopefully will help you to make this transition from one job or industry into a completely different one that much easier. Step number 1 is to know what that job and industry is looking for. Do your research. Now, this is an obvious one, but you really want to get this one right because this sets the foundation for how you're going to approach your job search. So what you really want to understand in this process is, what does this job require? Obviously, they ask for very specific types of duties, tasks that you're going to have to perform, certain types of knowledge that you need to have, certain skills. So you need to be very familiar with all of that and then be completely honest with yourself. Ask yourself, have I done anything that is even remotely similar to what this job is asking for? When it comes to tasks, for example, if the job requires you to write reports and you've done report writing in the past, then great. That's an example of you being able to match up your current experience to the job that you're applying for and what they're looking for. On the other hand, however, if this job is requiring very specific types of technical knowledge, and you've never studied this type of knowledge, you've never gained this type of knowledge ever, and this job is extremely technical from that perspective, for example, it's a programming job and you have no programming experience, then you have to be realistic about where do I bridge that gap? And if it means that you need to take on additional education, which we'll talk about later on, then so be it. But you need to understand what they want, what you have, what is the gap, what are the differences, and also, most importantly, what are the similarities? What do you have that they're looking for already? So for example, one of my clients, Vicky, she was working as a pharmacist in the pharmaceutical field, and she wanted to switch into the medical field. Now, you may think for someone who's outside of that they're completely the same, but they're not. Someone who's in pharmaceutical can't necessarily get into medical unless they can showcase that they have certain skills, qualities, experiences that will match up to the role that they're applying for. So there are some similarities in both fields, however, and so for her, it was a little bit more of an easier transition for her to get into the medical field because of her pharmaceutical background. On the other hand, if you're someone who, let's say, is in the entertainment industry and you want to get into a very technical type of scientific industry, if that makes sense, it may be a little bit difficult because what are the similarities between those two industries? not too much. So you have to make sure that you understand what it is that the industry or the company or the job that you're applying for is exactly looking for, and what do you have that matches up. Step number 2 is to find or build the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. So once you've done your research and you understand what that company, that job, that industry is looking for, and you understand where you're at and that there's a gap, then what you want to do is you want to build a bridge or find the bridge to get to the other side. Because a lot of people think that they could easily just leap into a completely different job or industry until they actually try and they realize they can't. And maybe this has been you. Maybe you thought, yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult to get into another industry or to get into a different type of job as long as, they like me. But it can be quite difficult. And the reason for that is because you haven't done the work of bridging yourself to get to that other side. So what do I mean by bridge? Bridge means anything that they're asking for that you currently don't have, that you could get before you take on that job, you need to go about doing that. For example, it could be education. Maybe they require certain types of certifications or courses that you need to take before you can actually pursue that job. Then go ahead, do that. That's part of your bridge. On the other hand, what I see is more common is a good bridge that is pretty solid, that will help you to get to that other side, is to take on, I call it a bridge role. What that means is that it's an in-between position. It's not the ideal dream job that you want. It's one step outside of what you're doing right now, but one step before what you really want to do. So, for example, like I talked about Vicky earlier, she was in the pharmaceutical field, she was a pharmacist, and she really wanted to work in the medical field. And like I said, they're two different things. They're not exactly the same thing. She wanted to work more closely with patients and work with them from a different level than she was as a pharmacist. So the job that she wanted was not exactly a easy job to get. Not a lot of people who are pharmacists automatically get that type of job. She needed to first apply for roles that were an in-between, so a step outside of the pharmaceutical field and a step closer to the medical field. That's exactly what she did. She used the techniques that I taught her with her resume, her interview strategies, and she was able to get that bridge role. And believe it or not, within less than a year, I think it was probably about 6 months after, she was able to then land her final permanent current position, which she is super excited about, and she's been working in that and doing very well in, and that is her dream job. But that was the steps that she, as just one example, had to take. And so this is something that you want to consider. You want to ask yourself, what is an in-between position from where I am now to where I want to be? What is the in-between job? It's a really big gap that you have between where you are, where you want to be, and it's really hard to leap over there. So you really want to bridge the way for yourself and set yourself up for success in the long term. On to step number 3, which could be done before or at this time. You want to make a record of your transferable skills, qualifications, and experience. Now, I basically mentioned this in step 1 when I said you have to understand and do your research on what the job and company and industry is looking for. Really, in this step, you want to focus on yourself and you want to ask yourself, what do I have? What are my skills? What are my key experiences? What have I done throughout the years? Or if you have zero work experience, what have you learned in school that is relevant to this job or industry? So you want to figure out what are your transferable skills. For example, like I said earlier, if the job requires you to do writing of reports, well, maybe in your master's program or in your undergraduate program, you had to prepare a lot of reports. You had to write reports. So that right there is a transferable skill. For example, maybe another task they're asking you to do is to perform a certain type of analysis or to perform a certain type of research. Well, if you did that in school, that is transferable. So you just have to start really keeping track of skills that you have, experiences that you've done, and making sure that they match up to the role that you'd love to apply to. So many people come to me and tell me they have nothing, they don't have any experience, there's nothing relevant, and I'm sorry to say that is a cop-out. That is just you quitting before you even begin. Do not do that, okay? Take a look at yourself, be honest with yourself, ask yourself, and try to find what you can, because you do have skills and experiences that can be applicable to the right role if you are looking at the right opportunities. Step number 4 is to then stay on the lookout for new postings and be diligent about applying. I get it. Trying to switch careers, trying to switch industries is not easy, and I'll be honest and upfront to tell you that it's actually going to take time. It doesn't happen as quickly as if you were just wanting to make a lateral move from one job to another where you're doing the exact same thing just in a different company. No, when you're trying to make a career switch, that in itself is a huge undertaking, and it's going to take time. It's not necessarily going to happen right away because there are things to figure out, such as the things that I've already talked to you about today. So when it comes to applying for roles, you want to make sure that you are strategic about it, that you pay attention to the new opportunities that come up, and you start to identify what are the right opportunities to apply for, the ones that are, like I said, the bridge roles perhaps, the ones that are the right next step for you, not necessarily the ideal dream job that you'd love to have 5 years from now, but the one that will get you there. So pay attention to those openings and pay attention to when they come up and they show up on job boards, because as soon as they come up, you want to be able to pounce on them and you want to be able to submit your CV, your applications as quickly as possible, because the earlier that you do that in the process of when a job opens up, the higher the chances that your CV, your application is going to be looked at. So you want to be able to be diligent, you want to apply early and quickly, and you want to also do my final step. So final step number 5 is to make sure that you tailor your resume and interview answers for every position. If you are a viewer of my videos, you have seen and heard me say this time and time and time again, and I will never stop saying it because it's the truth and you need to hear the truth, which is that when you're applying for a role, you need to tailor yourself to that role as much as possible. What does tailoring mean? It means on your CV, your resume, you need to structure that CV and resume using the right vocabulary, the right phrases, the right tasks, the right bullet points, so that you are aligned to that opportunity. When it comes to interviews, same thing. If it's not written, it's more verbal, but it's the same idea where you are matching yourself up to the position that's available as much as possible. So you need to understand the strategies on how to do that. You need to understand that there is a strategy, that if you want to make that leap from one position to the other, that there's a way to get there, but you have to know the strategy. You can't just hope and pray that it's going to happen. So if you need help in this area, definitely check out my free resume mastery workshop. The link is right here or in the description box down below. I'll teach you how to write a compelling, attractive resume that will get you more interviews. And then beyond that, I also have my free interview strategy workshop, which teaches you how to develop strong, compelling answers to interview questions so that you know exactly what you need to say and how you need to come across in order to be convincing to the hiring managers and to have them pick you as their number one candidate. So take a look at those resources and hopefully they will help you. All right, that's it. Those are my 5 steps on how you can make the transition from where you're at right now, whatever job or industry you're in, to the one that you would love to get into. Hopefully that helped you. Now, if you're someone who's currently been looking for a long time now, you've realized that you need one-on-one professional help from me, then feel free to reach out. Head on over to my website, lindarainer.com/standoutgethired, read through the page, fill in the application form, and from there, if it seems as though we're a match, one of my teammates will be reaching out to you directly. You can also check out, like I mentioned earlier, my free resume mastery workshop, as well as my interview strategy workshop, and from there decide for yourself if you're interested in further enrolling in my programs and courses, which have helped hundreds and thousands of students to get their dream job offers. So if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends, Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.